Oh, really? Oh, really? So, the GameStop CEO was asked about Sony discontinuing physical games after January 2028. And they said, it don't matter. They said, I don't care. They said, it don't mean nothing. They said, why are you asking me? They don't care. Check this out. GameStop CEO. I mean, after all, it's in the name. GameStop. Why wouldn't they care? CEO says PlayStation killing physical games doesn't matter at all. GameStop chairman and CEO Ryan Cohen shrugged off the death of physical PlayStation discs and told Bloomberg to shift to digital, quote, doesn't matter at all to his company. Wow. Now, I actually heard about this, I don't know, maybe a day or two ago, while doom scrolling. And I thought to myself, well, last time I was in GameStop, they sold a lot more than just the games. So maybe that's why. So let's see what he has to say. This comes after Sony confirmed at the start of July that it will stop producing discs for all new PlayStation games from January 2028, which is one of the biggest moves toward digital-only gaming yet. And you know, another thing that made me think, I was like, as much as y'all always trying to sell used games for higher prices than you should and get us to buy all this other stuff related to games and you don't care, maybe things have changed. I haven't been in there in a while. It always felt like a racket trying to get something out of there. It felt like I was going to get scammed by trying to buy something. The backlash was immediate, and players who still want to own their games rather than rent a license have spent weeks pushing back. And they ain't stopped. They're still going. So when the final boss of the biggest name in physical game retail finally weighed in, plenty expected him to share the worry. Instead, he could not have sounded less bothered. Now, either it's a front or he's absolutely telling the truth. So let's see. Why Game Boss isn't sweating the disc apocalypse. I don't sweat you. Where's that from? And you better know. You better know. One particular movie where he did it like that. One particular movie. When Cohen spoke to Bloomberg Tech, he dismissed the impact of Sony's decision. And he called the whole shift totally irrelevant to GameStop. Aren't they trying to buy eBay? They trying to do something else. So, but you know what? That still stays in the whole resale of things category, so it kind of makes sense. He argued that physical games now make up only a small part of business, which I don't believe. Then pointed to where the money actually comes from these days, since collectibles like trading cards and Pokemon products have grown into the company's biggest earner while game software keeps shrinking. So he meant for their stores, GameStop. I see what he's saying there. So games are smaller and they're buying other stuff from them. I guess I could believe that. I guess, but I don't know. None of this came out of nowhere, as earlier this year GameStop reported that collectibles made up 29% of the first quarter sales. Well, what made up the rest then? Outselling video game software, which is why Cohen has openly framed trading cards as the natural extension of the store. Of the store's buy and sell trade routes. Interesting. On top of that, he is chasing a far bigger prize. He has set his sights beyond retail entirely with an unsolicited $56 billion bid to eBay that the e-commerce firm rejected as neither credible nor attractive. Interesting. Okay, even so, Cohen's shrug lands very differently from the rest of the industry. Whether that's the hundreds of thousands who signed the petition begging Sony to keep the disc alive, or Hideo Kojima warning of the frightening future of digital. Well, I mean, if those numbers are absolutely true, I get it. I'd still have an issue with a certain percentage of my sales that, I don't, I know the gaming industry, but I don't know the gaming industry. I know it well enough. Like, there's certain businesses, like, for example, two businesses I invested in and made money on because I knew them well enough. One was wrestling. Years ago, the WWE had announced, I don't know, no, not WWE announced. The news was talking about how low their stock was. It was like at $2 and something. So I bought at that time. I bought as much as I felt comfortable buying, and I made I made somewhere from $3,000 to $5,000 on it when I sold it. And I was like, yeah, because I know the ebb and flow of wrestling. I know the business. I knew they weren't going to go out of business. I knew they would eventually come back because wrestling is like that. People leave, people come back. Even I eventually came back after John Cena destroyed wrestling for so many years. And how dare them try to call him the GOAT? He's nowhere near that. He's the GOAT of garbage. Garbage gimmicks, right? Everything from the prototype to the Marine, fine. But right after the Marine, they made him Boy Scout super duper corny Cena, and from there he was half or more of the crowd booed him every night. Horrible. But anyway, in the other business was gaming. When GameStop stock dropped, I remember I was actually watching Review Tech USA. He mentioned it. I was like, thank you for that info, sir. You have to make some purchases here. And then all of a sudden, I'm hearing about this whole thing going on with Wall Street and them being angry that gamers and other investors figured out how to manipulate the market and all this other stuff. And GameStop was one of the businesses they were investing in. And I was like, let me check my stock. I was like, oh, I hadn't checked you in a while. I ended up making 10 G's and some change on that. 10 G's and a few hundred on that. I remember. So I think I know the business well enough, you know what I mean, to kind of gauge some things. So, but he probably knows it better. But also sees the CEO, and a lot of CEOs say stuff just to keep up the looks. Like, why would we be worried? Yes, we sell this and we sell that. That could be a cover. But it might not be. It might, So we'll just have to see how things go. But they say they don't care. In the meantime, make sure you sign the petition and you keep telling Sony you want them damn discs, y'all. 10 million subscribers.